This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. 7 people murdered in St. James and Westmoreland. 7 people, including a 16-year-old boy, were murdered in St. James and Westmoreland during a bloody weekend in which a 13-year-old student was left nursing gunshot wounds at hospital. Those killed in St. James have been identified as 33-year-old Darrell Richards, a data entry clerk of Salt Spring, 41-year-old Brian Coote, otherwise called Todd, farmer of Kensington, 16-year-old Amarian Campbell, a student of Peaceview Albion, 35-year-old Jermaine Brown, otherwise called Jailbud, painter of Fairview, Irwin. The Westmoreland victims are 28-year-old Arsino Sams, laborer of Red Ground in Negril, 34-year-old Devon Mosley, otherwise called Bandu, laborer also of Red Ground, Negril, and 59-year-old Winston Williams, otherwise called Slyback, laborer of Kings Valley, Grange Hill. The Savannah Lamar police reported that shortly after 10:30 a.m. on Saturday, gunmen said to be part of a gang operating out of Red Ground in Negril attacked rivals near a chicken farm. Residents said the gun battle lasted more than an hour. 6 persons were found suffering from gunshot wounds and were rushed to the hospital. Sams and Mosley were pronounced dead at hospital. A police investigator from Westmoreland said there has been an ongoing gang feud between men from Red Ground, Negril. This is not the first instance where we have had a double murder in that community, a policeman who requested anonymity said. The entire warfare is connected to the lottery scamming, and most of these men who are caught up in the altercation are well-known scammers, but the police will now be clamping down on these men. Over in St. James, the police report that the most recent of the 5 weekend murders occurred at approximately 8:30 p.m. on Saturday in Tufton district. Reports by the police are that Jermaine Brown, who resides with his common-law wife and children in Irwin, traveled to Tufton to visit a friend. While at her house, an argument reportedly developed between Brown and the woman's baby father. The dispute got physical and Brown was shot multiple times. The accused allegedly fled the scene. Prior to that incident, 16-year-old Campbell and a 13-year-old boy were at a salon and cafe in Albion at about 5:20 p.m. when 9 men in 2 motor cars sprayed the teens with gunshots. Campbell succumbed to his wounds. Investigators say they have strong reasons to believe that the killing of the 16-year-old boy stemmed from the murder of a 26-year-old Adrian Kemar Alexander, otherwise called Father God, a dancehall entertainer in Cassava Walk, about 10:30 a.m. on Friday morning. Following the series of shootings in Albion, the police maintained a strong security presence in the community. We have carried out a number of operations in Leaders Avenue and also in Cassava Walk in Albion in search of some of the suspected shooters who the police have already identified, said a policeman who requested anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the media. 38 people have been murdered in the parish of St. James since the start of the year, while over 20 have been killed in Westmoreland. Thief chops elderly woman. A thief is currently on the run in St. Elizabeth after he reportedly used a machete to chop and injure an elderly woman last Tuesday as he was stealing pineapples off her farm. Information reaching the news is that the man allegedly entered a premises belonging to the complainant Evelyn McDonald, 71. After bagging approximately 70 pounds of pineapples, the would-be robber tried to escape but was spotted by the complainant's granddaughter, who immediately raised an alarm. The women confronted the man, who allegedly used a machete to chop McDonald on her left hand during a scuffle. He then escaped. A lawman assigned to the Newmarket police station in the parish said the police won't relent until the perpetrator is apprehended. Let that sink in. Tufton urges Jamaican to wake up to COVID realities. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton has delivered a stinging bouncer that he hopes will zip so closely past the eyes, ears, and heads of Jamaicans that it will sink in relation to the present COVID-19 realities nationally. In a clearly heartfelt and dramatic video presentation, tagline, "Let it sink in," the minister addressed the harsh realities that he said have been brought about by COVID-19 breaches that on Saturday produced a whopping 723 new COVID-19 cases, plus the not mentioned but definitely relevant tally of another 7 deaths from the virus. In the video that hit social media on Sunday, Tufton said the 35.9% positivity rate out on Saturday's COVID testing means that the nation's hospital will now come under intense pressure. Let that sink in. Let it sink in that positivity rate means that our hospitals are going to come under pressure, significant pressure, and impassioned Tufton stressed. Let it sink in that our public health workers, our nurses, our doctors are going to find it very difficult to cope with those who come in and need medical care. Let it sink in that it means longer waits, it means persons have to suffer for longer periods before they can get a bed, and generally speaking, a health system that is going to experience significant stress and fatigue, he elaborated. Tufton lashed the applicable Jamaicans for not trying hard enough to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. I accept that the government has a responsibility, but let us be clear that a lot of the spread that is taking place in this country is because too many of us are ignoring the need for personal responsibility, he stated. Already, he has received a backlash on social media for using the line "let that sink in" when he tweeted about the shocking one-day COVID-19 statistics. But Tufton said he was not sorry for using the line. I am sorry if some persons are offended by this straight and plain talk, but I believe that it is very important that all of us appreciate and understand the consequences of our actions, he said in the video. He reiterated his call for Jamaicans to follow the COVID-19 protocols. He also expressed confidence that better days are ahead of us. Vaccines are expected to begin arriving on Monday of this week. We will now embark on one of the most significant logistics exercise that this country has seen, but it is important that we recognize until then we must observe the protocols. We must continue to wear the mask, continue to physical distance, continue to sanitize, otherwise we will see worse days ahead, Tufton maintained. The Health and Wellness Ministry also reported that of the 271 persons now hospitalized with the virus, 31 are classified as being moderately ill, while 31 are classified as being critically ill. Guy calls for review of COVID-19 measures. Opposition spokesperson on health and wellness, Dr. Maurice Guy, says he shares the nation's collective shock and concern at the high number of positive COVID-19 cases and is calling for a national approach to the burgeoning crisis. Commenting on the record 723 cases reported by the Ministry of Health and Wellness on March 6, Guy noted that both Friday and Saturday had record numbers and capped a week in which 2,427 persons tested positive, with positivity levels at up to 36%. Consequently, Guy said there should be an urgent review by a board-based team including Jamaica's best scientists of the medical program and the management with a view to replacing ineffective ones with best practices, which have been proven globally. He is also calling for renewed emphasis on mask wearing and urged stronger public education and enforcement efforts to stabilize the situation. Guy argued that with over 270 COVID-19 patients in hospitals in addition to persons with regular respiratory illnesses, special attention also needs to be placed on securing the requisite supplies including oxygen for these diseases. We are concerned about the state of the healthcare system, exasperated by the fact that many doctors and the nurses are themselves getting infected, he said. The opposition spokesman said the government should consider recommendations made by the opposition as the health and welfare of the population trumps all other considerations. Some schools forcing teachers to do face-to-face classes. Some teachers are up in arms with school administrators who are insisting that they turn up for face-to-face classes despite a surge in COVID-19 cases and a directive from the government that work from home be facilitated in the public sector to help curb the spread of the virus on the island. President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Jasford Gabriel, raised the concern during an interview on Saturday. He suggested that school administrators who are anxious to make up for lost time are now forcing teachers to expose exposed themselves to the virus that has spiraled out of control over the past 5 weeks, leading to a tightening of the health protocols under the Disaster Risk Management Act. As it relates to work-from-home orders, we are imploring our school administrators to be as considerate as possible and not to require our teachers who are not at the exit exam grade levels, that is grades 12, 13, and 11, along with grade 6, only those teachers should be required to be out teaching in the physical space, Gabriel said. He argued that those teachers who were already teaching from home and who are not involved with exam groups and are capable of working from home should be allowed to do so. We are getting a lot of complaints about administrators who are calling out teachers to teach from school even though they are not teaching the exam groups, and you would also realize that we are still seeking to treat with a rough period in terms of the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, Gabriel stated. As part of measures announced by Prime Minister Andrew Holness last week Sunday to curb the spread of the coronavirus and which affect both public and private schools, only students sitting external examinations in grades 6, 11, 12, and 13 are required to attend until March 22, when the measures will be revised. All other students are to access classes via the online or other modalities. As of last Thursday, a work-from-home order, which would apply to the island's 25,000 public school teachers, is being enforced in the public sector, including across ministries, departments, and agencies. The order will remain in force until March 22, but permanent secretaries will determine what critical employees are required to be present in the physical workspaces. While the work-from-home order is not mandatory, Holness said where a member of staff has comorbidities or physical challenges, they should be allowed to work from home. ACU says reduced on buses due to COVID-19, reminds JUTC. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company is reminding the public that as part of its COVID-19 protocols, it has reduced the use of air conditioning as recirculated air could potentially spread the virus. The company made the announcement as it noted reports circulating on social media about some commuters feeling extremely hot inside the buses because of elevated temperatures that sections of the country are experiencing. Windows are open for ventilation. We are taking further steps to convert side panels to sliding glass windows in some buses that will increase ventilation for passengers. The lower panels of the buses were not designed to be open because they are equipped with AC units, the company said. The JUTC also implored commuters to hydrate, especially as local temperatures increase. Unquestionably, our operations have been placed on the strain since the onset of the pandemic at a level never before seen in the history of the company. We continue to do all we can to protect the well-being and safety of commuters. We apologize for any inconvenience caused and would like to remind commuters that the COVID-19 protocols are aimed at safeguarding the health of every Jamaican, the JUTC added. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.